while thinking, writing, and then producing my videos, one thing has continually come up over and over through messages and conversations with others, and that is everyone perceives the same concept very, very differently. This, I think, is where much of the frustration comes from when trying to form understandings with each other. One size rarely fits all. I've mentioned this previously, but I'll reiterate it here again. For me, personally, if I have to guess, I suppose my thinking is fundamentally lived, practical and philosophical, but always with general reality, facts, data and science, etc. as my essential foundations. Let's put it this way, the truth doesn't hit me in any pointed way until objective truth, data, science, etc. correlates with my subjective one, or my lived experience. When my lived experience meets the data and the science, this is where the clarity is for me. It's the truth in all directions for me, so to speak. Others, however, only need science and data as their totality of thought and understanding, and that's fine, to each their own. I, however, need a human filter by which to comprehend the ontology of what is. 1 + 1 is 2, but so what if there's no practical application of it in my life? So given this differentiation in cognition prior to communicating between most of us, I thought it would be a refreshing and beneficial idea to analyse my concept of happiness, not just from a philosophical standpoint, as I commonly do, but rather from a mathematical standpoint, and in so doing perhaps communicate to those with a different cognitive bias. That is, elucidate where I'm coming from philosophically through the universal language of mathematics. Now, this is just a mental exercise that could prove useful for someone. Call it mathematical philosophy if you like, I don't know. Me personally, I don't process things in this way in an unconscious, natural way, but I have an intellectual curiosity that finds most things interesting if they can be of use to the human condition. So firstly, I thought about what the happiness formula may look like mathematically to a freshly red-pilled man. Facetiously, I'll admit, it may resemble something like this. A mental exercise in herding confused and pissed off cats, mathematically speaking. A whole bunch of specific pinpointed desires, problems, emotions and solutions, all essential in mitigating unhappiness. This is how many confused Mr. Andersons out there are trying to work things out. So then I thought, what about all the Neos out there that have transcended their personal Mr. Andersons? What about the man who has been red-pilled for a while now? Who has unmoored himself, mentally speaking, who has come to terms with the world and himself a little more, has travelled down the road a little more, and his waters are a little more still now. What of the man who has been going his own way for a while now? What would the equation look like for me, for example? And so, unlike the previous freshly red-pilled equation of complexity, I knew I needed to simplify my mathematical thinking in this case in order to match my current philosophical thinking. And this is what I eventually came up with after various iterations. It's my simplest mathematical reduction of what happiness is for me. Some people rephrase the top in terms of, instead of fulfilled, they term it being contented or loving and appreciating everything you have. Basically being completely satisfied with your station, whatever works for you. The bottom, needy, is things like addiction, desires, chasing things, chasing emotions like validation or love, being attached to things and outcomes or people externally. It's all the stuff you have no control over that paradoxically is controlling the mood and perspective of most blue-pilled men. It's a cruel contradiction. So basically, the more of this top one I am, where I really love and am grateful for what I have and who I am, and the less of the bottom way of thinking I entertain, where I never have enough or am never enough, the more happiness I experience. The top things are what authentically satisfy a man, and these usually come from within. Self-esteem, gentlemen, and a glass half full attitude. The bottom things are unsatisfying, addictive wants and desires and irrationalities that are fundamentally a lie and altogether elusive. That is, if you can get them, you aren't even content. Now, this doesn't mean I'm manufacturing my happiness consciously via a fake button-pushing formula to achieve a prescribed state of happiness. No, I'm not there bullshitting myself saying,
Okay, human, let's reduce this number here and increase this one over here in order to manufacture the authentic feeling of happiness.
No, the self-aware person cannot lie to himself. It must be authentic. Appreciating and focusing on the top part of this equation is simply a state of not wasting mental energy on the things one has no control over, namely the bottom of the equation. To me, I view the bottom of my equation consciously and always as completely irrelevant. In fact, I always like to think of the bottom part of the equation as a neutrality. It may rationally be there, but I couldn't care less. My perception is that everything outside of my control, that is the bottom of the equation, is always neutral. I choose not to let it factor into my life. Now, there'll be people out there that will quite rightly and rationally point to many things that I choose to ignore that do in fact exist and can be categorized as belonging in the bottom section. But quite simply, I refuse to remain in a state of anxiety if there is nothing I can do about it. I don't know about you, but that frees me, gentlemen. Now, an important thing to note about the equation also is the order of it is intentional. Happiness is always a result. Happiness comes at the end of a good foundational philosophy. Remember this, happiness is the end result of a healthy perspective. You don't get happy first. No, you live and believe in such a way as to feel happy as a natural result later on. With practice, this starts to become unconsciously effortless. It's like I'm not even trying now. Remember, everything outside you is neutral, gentlemen. Free yourself with that axiom. Anyway, I thought this might be of use to those of you who are more mathematically inclined. Make of it what you will. Later, gentlemen. Go your own way. Feel free to share, like, comment, or donate. Thanks.